It's been a few weeks. Obviously, the Christmas period has been the cause, delays. Yeah, just another update on a new video. It's really short again, but this is about a new article that's just been released by how GPs really, even to this day, still struggle to listen to the patients, and our experience as a family is the prime example of that. I'll show in the video the article here. It's on Liverpool Echo. We got misdiagnosed with my son. It took a while, and it was because of my age and how young I was that they didn't take me serious, which was just not acceptable. With pompe, it can show signs early, or it could show signs later on, depending on the strain of the illness. So it could be onset, you won't really see your signs until maybe you're an adult or a teenager or a young kid still, but just later on. And you can survive without treatment with onset for a certain amount of time. Obviously, it just all varies on the different strains. It's really complex. But with infantile, it's pretty much within that year you'll see there'll be big signs, big flags, big enough to this isn't normal. There's muscle weakness, floppiness, struggling to feed, immune system is compromised massively, struggling to sleep, and these were the telltale concerns that I was constantly addressing and begging the doctors to listen and hear me out, and I did not get that. All I got was criticism, judgment, young mum, you're paranoid, very, very degrading, not very supportive. I do not like that doctor practice, and I'm not the only one. And again, there seems to be a pattern with GPs. What I will stress as a disclaimer, not all doctors are like this. I've also met amazing doctors where hats to them. They're amazing. Doctors are amazing. I can't stress that enough. It's just there is a small percentage, that are still not listening to us as such, as people. So on my journey, it was about, I had a normal pregnancy, normal birth, 2 weeks in, breastfeeding, amazing, and then it got to the point where I was struggling to latch on. He was struggling to latch onto my breast because he would be vomiting, so aspirating. And at first I just thought, keep on trying. And he'd get the milk, but then he'd vomit it. As he finally able to get the milk out of the chest, it just go in his mouth and he'd vomit. He couldn't cope with it. So I had to syringe the breast milk. I did seek breastfeeding medical advice. I got the breastfeeding team to come to my house, witness me breastfeed him. They were like, oh, he's great, he's fine. I was like, he's not great. Within half an hour he's gonna vomit. Yeah, but he's latching on. If he vomits, go to the doctors, which I did. I went to the doctors and they were like, oh, here's some Diorolite, I'm sure he's fine, you're a new time mum, don't stress, it could be colic, blah blah blah. Treated him for that, did nothing. And I kept on going back and forth. It was every 3 weeks, because we give him Diorolite, he'd settle and be fine, and then he'd be vomiting again and not managing the breast. And so I kept on coming back, going, he's still not managing, he's still struggling. Again, they just battered me off as gone, it's just colic, you're fine, here's some Diorolite. I hate that bloody medicine. It's not even, it's a pain in the arse. Diorolite, because he's vomiting, Diorolite. Didn't take me to the hospital, didn't look any further than that. And then it got to the point where, as well, he was sleeping all the time. So he'd struggle to feed, and then he'd sleep for 7 hours a day. And then I'd wake him up, try and wake him up, he wouldn't wake up, so I was a bit panicked. Put him on the breast to try and encourage him to wake up. He'd latch on, feed a little bit, and then aspirate again, and then go back to sleep. And I was just like, this is not on. Raised it to the doctor. The doctor just said, it's fine, it's normal, it does happen. we're not worried. So just go home. You'll be fine. It got to when he was about 4 to 5 months and he was floppy. So this, again, the telltale sign physically seeing a pompe child is the floppy head. And I actually have the book. I'm only going to show you the cover because it's got pictures of the children. Just give me 1 sec. I'm back. So, this is the book. The floppiness, like level of floppiness, is this. This is what he was like. He couldn't keep his own head up. He couldn't keep his arms up. He was 4 months old, and I had friends who had kids that were like 4 months behind my son, and they were girls, and they were managing to keep their own heads up, play with things. Their motor skills was way more advanced than my son. He was trying, but you could see how tired he was trying to play and interact. He had tummy time to keep that exercise going. He had his little bouncer in the doorway and then a walking bouncer so he can walk around the house to give that movement. He wouldn't move. He couldn't move at all. And he'd cry and he'd get upset, working hard. I'd push him a little bit and go, no, because obviously that time I was thinking it was normal. I was like, no, we've got to push you. We've got to exercise. Got to get these muscles moving. So I was like, no, yeah, you're crying. I'll give you an extra few moments to work through that. But then it was like, no, he's knackered. He's not there. So I brought this up to a doctor, again in the same place. And he just turned to me and said, boys are lazy. My boys are lazy. Boys are just lazy. And I was like, no, this is not normal. Look at him. And he looked at him and he was like, it's fine. Boys are lazy. Girls are more advanced. And that was because I mentioned about his cousins being girls. He was like, boys are just lazy. It's fine. Girls, put him in a bouncer. And I said, I have put him in a bouncer and he's still floppy. No. Just, you're fine. You're fine. So I left, obviously. I was like really young. I not long just turned 20 at this point, so I didn't know what I was doing. I was really young. I was in distress, disbelief that, am I being over the top and over worried? This is, it is me, is it? So I left, and then I was like, no, I want a second opinion. This is not, I just wanted a second opinion. So I got another phone call with the doctors and said I wasn't happy with how I was treated. I wanted a second opinion. This was not appropriate. And they got me in again for an appointment. And I explained the situation. I think they handed it over to the doctor, and the doctor was not impressed with how the other doctor previously commented on my concerns and disregarded them as usual. She looked at him and looked at the doctor and was like, no, something's wrong. We need to do bloods. And she did bloods, and she sent off for bloods, booked it in, and, that was on its way. But during waiting for that was like a month's wait. It was about 6 months. It was about a month's wait. No, about 7-ish. It's been 2014. My head's all over the place, and it's still hectic and stressful. So sorry if my memory isn't particularly exactly, but I am just, it was about around 6-ish months. And it was another time where on the way to the hospital, again, due to the aspirating, we did I got a phone call, got an emergency appointment in with the GP, came in with my son, and I sat him up, and there was a student doctor and a doctor with me dealing with the case. And he just vomited, like, proper projectile vomit. And I broke down in tears. And they turned to me and they said, is there something you're not telling us? And I was like, I swore, I cried and said, no one's listening to me. I'm crying because something is wrong, seriously wrong with my son, and everyone is ignoring me. No one's listening. All you're giving me is diuretics. You're not further investigating this, and he's vomiting everywhere. I am not being listened to. I'm being ignored. You're all disregarding. There's a clear issue here. And she went straight back to, I didn't mean it that way. And I was like, well, what else did you mean it? You know, is there something I'm not telling? I am frustrated because, the receptionist was rolling her eyes every time I walked into that bloody doctor's, thinking, here she is again, paranoid mum, losing her shit. Oh my God. She'd laugh at me. She'd have a smirk and go, roll her eyes and smirk, and I'd be like, yeah, I'm here again. Knock it off. It was just really, I felt so vulnerable. I felt so like, am I actually failing my child? It was just vile. It was that, with what happened now and what I know now, it was vile. It was a medical negligence. Really simple term. Medical negligence. It was just negligent of all of them. Really not taking it serious. It took a doctor to. Really, it took my ex-mother-in-law to. She's about 40 at this time, I think 50. Obviously an older woman. She took her in. They took her serious. Did a chest X-ray. Found out the heart was enlarged, and it went on from there. Because when they did the X-ray, his heart was abnormally enlarged, and Arrow Park was like, oh shit, there is something wrong. I was like, yeah, okay. If you listened to me months ago, we would have been at a path sitting level. So the heart was enlarged. They did blood tests, and it came back as, yeah, your son's got pompe. But my issue there is how these, may not even been pompe. It should have been enough to go, something is going on. Let's just further investigate it. Let's go to A&E, get it looked at. None of that was actually happened. And it took me, when I bought the records off the doctors of what the notes that they were saying, and one of the notes literally says, I need to find that because it's all in disarray, but I've raged me. Was must question mother on mothering skills. And I was just like, what the fuck? Like, why? Really? Turns out he's got a life-limiting illness and he could have died, because at 7 months a lot of them die, and he got diagnosed. 7 months. Horrible. And if I would have lost my son, I would have been, this would have been it would have been my way of thinking that it was my fault. I didn't push hard enough. When I was pushing, I was consistently going to the doctors. The doctors failed. Those doctors specific, not all, those specific doctors failed my son. He wouldn't have been as severely muscle damaged as he was, because again, one of the early signs and the straightaway signs is not just the floppiness, but it's the mouth muscles that go first. The mouth muscles go first is what I've learned after the diagnosis. Obviously, I didn't know during. The first muscle that goes with pompe, classic infantile pompe disease, is the mouth muscles. And with the signs of him struggling to feed make sense now. It does totally make sense. And, it's just very frustrating and, not being believed. And I hear it now, even in the news, that it's still an ongoing issue. It still happens to this day, of misdiagnoses and either the patient's not getting listened to. And, it's very frustrating. And, this was 10 years ago. My son's 10 now. And I am absolutely shocked that I'm still hearing, like, it was on the news that, it was a cancer with a child, got misdiagnosed. And I'm just like, and the parent wasn't being listened to. And I'm just like, 10 years on, maybe the training needs to be improved. Maybe, I don't know. I'm not a doctor, and I don't criticize all doctors, because, not all of them are, from our experiences. But something I feel like needs to be done. I'm not entirely sure, but I feel like maybe the training needs to be more improved. They need to have a bit more of a compassionate, like some doctors, specifically the doctors that I know now, they're very compassionate, very, listen to the parents, because obviously when you've got a child with severe condition like my son, it's they do just go listen to the parent because they're the specialist, because with this condition is ridiculously like unknown still, and very not, it's complicated, and the best people who you're going to know about that specific patient, because every child patient is different, with even with pompe. When we are a specialist in our children, we know exactly what they're like. We're the perfect people to ask the questions, especially when, the child is non-verbal. My son is non-verbal. He communicates through his eyes. He's mentally all there, but he's non-verbal. So he can't voice. Otherwise, if he could voice, I'd let him tell the doctors. But it's different circumstances. Some can talk, depending on the condition, and again, it's every patient and child is unique and different with the condition. Some get diagnosed early, some don't. Like my situation. Yeah, that was a hurdle. So the article will be linked. I'm going to show it there again in that. Point my finger. But yeah, I hope this is a bit of a short video. Not too much, but I was going to try my microphone today because yeah, my setup's not really been great. Nothing's oh, you're turning on now. It's turning on now. Laptop, that would have been handy using the microphone. Maybe this second part of the video I might do my camera as I'm looking at my laptop now with frustration, because I could have done with this and it's not let me done it. So I do apologise, but I'm still gonna keep this because I think it's very important. So yeah, give me 1 minute. Don't have to edit out the mistakes. So the next part is about the difference between a weekly and 2 weekly treatments. In this PowerPoint that I've set up here that I'll show you as an example are 3 photos of the stages. So the first photo is my son on the swing. He is fine, head up as best as possible. He could keep his head up for a certain amount of time, especially when he was on his weeklies and he was diagnosed. He was a lot more better in himself. So obviously in this photo you can see the difference, the improvements of when he's finally being treated from when he wasn't being treated. So he was in the park, really nice. Hours after that photo was taken, he ended up, again, as the second photo, hospitalised. He got intubated, he couldn't breathe, he couldn't handle being off his BiPAP, which again, I'll show a picture of what the BiPAP looks like. It's a machine. I get confused with BiPAP and CPAP. It's my probably ADHD or dyslexia brain. I really struggle with the same thing. It's a machine that helps you breathe in the night. It's not as invasive as a ventilator. He wasn't vented at this time. It is a little nozzle thing that you just put on your nose and it pushes air for you to breathe, because sometimes people struggle to sleep because their respiratory either isn't as strong enough, it's compromised, or it's mainly with elderly, I would say, with using these machines. CPAP, BiPAP, again, I get confused. Give me a break. I'm not a doctor. Gotta stress that to you guys. Not a doctor. But he had that machine to help him sleep. And it was that night that he was struggling to breathe. You can see the wheeziness in his breath. I do have videos of these. It's quite not pleasant, but I feel like we need to talk more about this because it's very frustrating how there's not enough research on it. And if there's no enough research on it, there's no conversations on this, there's no evidence of all of this, we're never going to have an answer, we're never going to find a cure, we're never going to get any research done, because again, I don't care what people think. You're just using him for, well, no one said that, to be honest, but I know there'll be people out there who'll go, you're just using this to get attention. It's not. It's raising awareness, because I'm absolutely fed up that there's no conversations, there's not enough awareness, there's not enough research. The doctors keep on telling me this, and it's really frustrating. So, and it's frustrating for them. It's frustrating for the doctors. It's frustrating for the parents that have to watch the children go because there's no cure. And it is these telltale signs that could be diagnosed early and could improve massively on their quality of life. It's very frustrating. So, back to that. You could see the tummy breathing in the video. He's talking. It's really hard of breathing, struggling. So with that, we went to Arrow Park. He immensely got worse. He stayed there overnight. About 11 o'clock at night, I got a phone call saying we need to come immediately, like, to the hospital. And we're like, what's happened? No, you just need to come. We got a taxi. At the time, we both didn't drive, me and the ex. I still don't drive, my husband does though. Drove to the hospital. Sorry, my head's going sporadic. Went to the hospital. Walked in. Didn't get prior warning to this. This nurse just walked us into the children's ward and was just like, la la la. Walked into the ward, opened the doors, and I came into a doctor / he looked like a ENT surgeon gear, working on my 1.5-year-old. As you can see the pictures there, how small he was, doing compressions and bagging him. And I was like, I just fell to the floor and was like, what? No one told me what was going on. You just said you need to come here now. No one preempted us as parents going, look, he's took a turn for the worst, he's going to the hospital. You know, it's all these small little things that just could have been handled better. Call me a biatch, I don't care. Again, can't stress, not all people are like this in the hospital. There are amazing people. It is not a hate thing. It is not a slam bam, grr, everyone is the same. It is not the case. It was just my experience. I did not appreciate. I can't stress that enough. But moving more on to that, he ended up in Manchester again. In the picture, he gets intubated in ICU. And I stress that, you know, this was his first week on 2 weeklies. So he missed his first dose that week. And it was like, isn't this evidence? Isn't this evidence that this child needs the weekly? And the hospital was like, it's just a coincidence. It's just a coincidence that this, you know, that this happened. It's like, he does have rhinovirus. And I'm like, yeah, but even if it is rhinovirus, he's had rhinovirus during all of this and not ended intubated. And he was on weekly treatments for 6 months. And he did have colds and chest infections during that 6 months. I don't know if I said 6 weeks. 6 months. And he didn't end up being intubated or hospitalised. But it was when they moved to the 2 weekly, bam, intubated, that's it, bam. But they said it's just a coincidence, which just added to the frustration. I felt like I was hitting that brick wall again. I'm not being taken serious. But deep down, I felt the doctors just knew that because legally it was for everyone, for all pumping kids that did go to 2 weekly at this stage. Some did stay on weekly. But I feel like it was because he wasn't as... This will sound horrible. Progressed as the others, so they didn't see what point it was to give him weekly when he's already deteriorating. Why prolong something? They didn't necessarily say that, but it was basically what they said, that other children respond better to the drug than yours does. So because mine is more weaker and vulnerable, there's no point, because they felt in their head that wouldn't make a difference. And what, again, they didn't say it, but basically, what use would he be, kind of thing, if he was on weekly, and it wouldn't improve. So I got ignored. Like, you know, Manchester did agree and wanted it, but the other hospitals denied it. So, like, London, there had to be 3 doctors, Birmingham, London and Manchester, who have to come to an agreement to up this dose for this specific child they'd have a meeting. And apparently Manchester was the only one that obviously voiced it and felt that he should be on weekly, and the other 2 hospitals just denied it. So very complex. But what I will say is 4 years later, it was a big battle. We did get him back to weekly, and he is massively improved. He goes to school, he's fully there, he enjoys life. So, and you know, it's not like he's bedridden, can't move or anything, or mentally not there. that is a different story for me. You know, I wouldn't deem that as quality of life, but he does. He goes out and does stuff. So, you know, again, that's another debate with the treatments. 1 second, on the brew. Of whether weekly does make a difference from 2 weekly. And again, I feel that it's different for every different diagnosis and child. It's all different. Some can handle it, some can't, and again, that's just a different. It's not black and white. It's grey. All of it's grey, is what I need to stress. But with this, I feel it should be way more investigated, and I feel that things have improved with the treatment aspects of it all. With pompe, I feel like the doctors have tried, they are all fighting hard to try and get better treatment, because in America, I think it's France as well, Holland, Germany, other multiple countries do allow weekly treatments and do also do the heel prick, you know, but this country doesn't, obviously, because NHS, financial situation. I'm not going to get political. It's improving, but again, the two main topics today is, should the children be weekly or 2 weekly, and does it benefit them? Again, that's a grey area whether it is, and it's a conversations that need to be had more. And my personal experience of diagnosis, and that there is an ongoing topic on that GPs seem to have this pattern of, not just with pompe, not listening to the patients, not all, some GPs, can't stress that enough. And yeah, in my next video I think I'll be talking more on, let me just see what the next video may be about. Not sure, I've still got loads of PowerPoints and updates, and I might even throw in a video in there on what we are more so like as a family. Also, we do have videos on this channel showing what we get up to, really simple, nice family videos of what we're like and who we are as a family, and living with a child with Pompe disease, as hard as it is. It's amazing. It's a very hard, but you know, making these memories. So we're still loving life, and he's still loving life, and that's what's most important. So yeah, I'm glad you listened to my video. I hope you like it, and I'll do some more and try and keep up with it in the new year. So